The NHL playoff picture is still up in the air, but here in Winnipeg, fans are confident the arena will echo with the sound of white noise again.
Free socks.
Let's go! Go, Jets, go! Winnipeg is back in the big leagues and over the moon.
Back to the landing strip presented by From Financial, and busy day for us over here after doing that live show all day during the afternoon, riding the hopium all the way into copium. And if you're looking to watch some live reactions of how the deadline played out, make sure to tune into there. But hey, this team's still good. I'm sure there's going to be some frustration as trade talk comes in, but this is still a good hockey team, and they showed it tonight again by giving a paddling to the New Jersey Devils. But I don't want to talk about this game alone. Mikey, how you doing tonight?
Doing a lot better than this afternoon. Had some time to decompress, to step away, to cool down, you know. And then I got treated to an absolute, like you said, that's a paddling of one of the, supposedly best teams in the league. You know, missing a bunch of guys right now. Understandably so, but yeah, great to see the Jets go out there and put one on the Devils.
Tough to say one of the best teams in the league when they're in a bit of a free fall here. I will
Very
push
true.
back on that narrative a little bit.
I said
without
supposed
their
to
number
be.
one
I said
center,
supposed to be.
without Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton. But yeah, that is the type of game. Obviously, earlier this week they go on that little 3-game losing streak, and the sky is falling with the goals and whatnot. And then 2 straight games now. Not only just answering the bell, but dictating this one. I thought this was a pretty tight first period. Didn't really love it, but the Jets really broke this game open in the second, and they were off to the races from there. You got contributions from the power play again. I thought this was a game where Nick Ehlers was all over the ice. Most of the shifts he was looking to create something. That second line gives you some reasons to believe that maybe they didn't need a center. This was one of their good nights.
Yep.
Adam Lowry gets on the board in back-to-back games. Defensively, they don't give up a whole lot, and Connor Hellebuyck comes up big with everything they do give up outside of that. Jonathan Kovacevic jump into the slot pass to Dawson Mercer for a nice goal. The former Jet got paid coming off that $20 million contract today with a nice read in the O-zone.
Absolutely.
And the power play, I thought, was pretty strong in this one. So, hey, a lot of good to take out of it. What stood out to you the most today for the Winnipeg Jets, Mikey?
The power play. Really nice to see that after that 0-17 stretch that they are right back to being that just absolutely scary team on the power play. It almost feels unfair because every time they go out there, you're thinking, yeah, they're going to score again. So that's real nice that they've found that consistency on the power play again. And just that there was scoring up and down the lineup. You had contributions from somebody on every line tonight. And it's good because, we've talked about it a lot and we're going to talk about it a lot going forward. This team's best chance at success will be by group, right? They have to do this together and they're going to need contributions from everybody. So it was real nice to see that that we got that tonight, and, we'll have to keep getting it going forward.
Yeah, and I do like that takeaway as well. Obviously, what we believe is one of the strengths of this team is their depth, and you did get goals from all across the lineup today. 6 different goal scorers. The first line, Alex Iafallo, who we were talking about this week potentially leaving town, jumps in the net front there after the Logan Stanley goes D-to-D with Colin Miller. Colin Miller's patience to not just shoot it right away and find the opening to get that through. Just a heads up play, the little detail you like to see, and Alex Iafallo jumps all over it. Then on the power play, Nik Ehlers finds some space. And just a heads up shot. Keep that low, look for the rebound. And as soon as Nik Ehlers activated it and drove towards the net, Josh Morrissey jumped. So I'm wondering if that's something that they've been working on as a bit of a look off that half wall as they've been looking for answers on the power play. But that was just executed perfectly. Josh Morrissey sitting there all alone for the rebound.
Yep.
Nik Ehlers gets on the board himself from Dylan DeMello and Josh Morrissey. We're going to probably talk about Nik Ehlers a lot today. I thought this was the Nik Ehlers we know and love. And I see in the chat someone's hoping that, I think it was Jets fan 61 on Twitch. It's old Jets fan 66. Their first comment today was, I think today is another example of players not wanting to come to Winnipeg. More important than ever to find a way to re-sign Nik Ehlers. And you do leave this game getting a real appreciation of what Nik Ehlers does bring to this team when he is at his best. Adam Lowry jumps all over Simon Nemec, who had a real tough one in this one, and you could see why there's a lot of frustration around that name in Jersey. The captain gets on the board in back-to-back games. Talk about ending that cold spell.
That drought, yeah. Which, again, they're going to need.
They're going to need, especially after today not adding some impact, they're going to need scoring throughout this lineup. Kyle Connor gets on the board from Mark Scheifele and Gabe Vilardi. And this was one I really like to see Mark Scheifele really take control of transition, find that open ice, kind of slow up to let the play develop and find who was open. It looked like he was looking at Vilardi first, and the D went with Vilardi, and he was able to find Kyle Connor, who just rips one by.
Unreal shot.
And then Cole Perfetti, he looked a little frustrated last game with some of the looks that Nik Ehlers was creating for him that he couldn't put in. Gets on the board late in this one from Nik Ehlers and Dylan Sandberg. A play where Pionk starts it in the corner, gets it up to Ehlers at the blue line, slides it over to Sandberg, who hammers it off the half wall. Cole Perfetti jumps all over to put this one to bed. And this was just exercising the demons against the Devils today. Just a statement performance from Winnipeg.
Yeah, it was real nice to see. I want to give a shout out to Garrett Hull. He's got a great Substack. He's got a great social media. Definitely HOHL. He points out that Nik Ehlers, in terms of players who play at a point per game pace, he has the lowest time on ice per game out of all of those players since they've been tracking that stat. Nik Ehlers literally does more with less than any player in NHL history since we've been tracking that as a statistic. Like, that is going to be such a loss when we lose him in the off season, if that happens.
Maybe they don't. Yeah, maybe they don't.
Hey, there's weird, crazier things have happened. That's, but that's, I just want to point out that I don't know if anybody does more with less than Nik Ehlers, and replacing that won't be easy. And tonight was a perfect example of what he brings you in terms of the goal scoring, in terms of the playmaking. He was on fire tonight.
Hard to disagree. And this one ends with a statement. As if the New Jersey Devils weren't already dead. Logan Stanley taking it to Eric Holla to end this one.
Yeah.
Just put a nice little bow on this game if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan, coming off 2 real strong back-to-back games. And I think it's important to remind people, obviously, if you watch the stream, and some people haven't been happy with me today watching my reactions to the stream, I think there's two realities at play here that I don't want to lose track of. The disappointment of today is because the Winnipeg Jets are a very good team. That doesn't change because they didn't get anybody at the deadline. This is still, or anybody notable at the deadline. This is still a quality hockey team. It's been a fun team to watch all year, and when they're playing at their framework and their I'm at a loss for words. Too much talking right now. Their identity. They're a really tough team to contain, and we saw them look more like that team identity over the last 2 games, and I think that's something to be excited about past the disappointment this morning.
Yeah, that's 100% agree. The reason that we were disappointed that there wasn't a big splash of an ad is because they're so good, and we wanted to get some backup for them. They've been playing good hockey. We've seen it all year long for, some stretches longer than others, but we've seen that they can play a good brand of hockey when they're all healthy and they're all, playing well. The issue starts to come in is what happens if you lose one of those top end guys. Who's jumping in to replace it? Do you have that quality, right? Nobody's healthy at the playoffs come playoff time. So we just got to pray that for the most part, we've got all of the bodies that you currently see in the lineup. Because when they're playing well, they can hang. It's just that we saw what happened in the playoffs last year against a pretty good Colorado team that got better, and you start to get nervous. But hey, we'll have to see what happens.
We will definitely have to see what happens. I just wanted to make sure we point that out as we get underway here, that despite that disappointment, there is still reasons to believe Connor Hellebuyck could go God mode. And yeah, that is a key. Health is because this team doesn't have much insurance at certain spots. But on this game alone, power play's back. PK looks strong. You get contributions through your entire lineup, all 4 lines. Plus, I thought that all the D were pretty steady in this one. I thought this might have been one of Miller Stanley's better games as a duo. Did they get the message with Luke Schenn coming in and potentially losing some ice time?
Yep.
It's a hard game to find any problems with. Like if you're coming here on a Friday night, you got to be excited about what you just watched.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot to pick apart in terms of what they did on the ice tonight. And like we've talked about, it's about that exact thing, that they are pretty good. This is the best team we may have seen in quite a while, at minimum since that 2018 deep run. We wanted to get them some more help. We wanted some extra skill, some extra scoring to really shore up the depth, because once the playoffs start, the bench gets short and the intensity gets turned up, and I don't want to go out in the first round in 5 games again to Colorado. I don't want to do that, and looking at the way the Jets started this year, I was real excited to get another shot at the Avs to kind of put that to bed. And now I look at what they did today, and I went, no, they can have Dallas in round 1. That'd be cool, and we'll hang back.
We chase first. The Winnipeg Jets need to keep ahead of Dallas from here on out. Is basically how this is played out. I think DB 204 puts it best, nice and simple. They pumped them good. Great effort tonight. And that's what you want to see. Coming into that one, wasn't sure how that would go. The team answered very well.
Yeah. I feel kind of bad for Colin Miller tonight. I think the most. He hasn't really done anything to come out of the lineup, and it's almost an assurance that he absolutely is with Luke Schenn coming on. So yeah, feel real bad for Miller. Guy gets traded for last year, then rides the pine for the majority of that tenure. The season starts up, we're thinking, hey, maybe this is going to be the guy on the third pairing to kind of lock that down a little bit. And nope, it's been mostly up in the press box. And now again, he's got a stretch of good games in here, and you're probably still heading back upstairs, buddy. It just, feel bad for him.
And coming off that deadline, we got Brandon Tanev's first game back with the Winnipeg Jets, sporting 73.
73.
Interesting line decision. Morgan Barron bounced to the middle and Gus came out. I was a little surprised by that one as far as centers go. What'd you think of the fourth line today, and what'd you think of seeing Turbo back in a Jets jersey on this night?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised to see Barron take the spot at center. I'm wondering if Gus is still maybe working off a little bit of the injury. Might have a few of the cobwebs still stuck there. Otherwise, you'd think he'd be the one taking those reps at center, but fourth line looked great tonight. There was really kind of no loss losing Kupari there, which, we love cardio. He's great, but they handled that no problem. And yeah, seeing Tanev back on with the Jets. Hey, in a fourth line role, that's exactly what you want out of those guys. Go out there, eat up some minutes, play hard in the offensive zone, and then if you get a goal, that's bonus, right? That's cherry on top. So am I thrilled about the fact that it cost a second round pick to bring him back? No, not super thrilled about it, but whatever. You overpay at the deadline sometimes. It's a great moment for a lot of fans. I know a lot of people really like Brandon Tanev. He's a fan favorite. He's not exactly my type of player. It's not my guy, but I'm happy for the fans that are happy. And if he's going to help them chip in, some offense magically now on the fourth line, hey, do it.
Yeah, and it's safe to say, I think this stands out here. Danica Smith says 50% on the power play. Every line scores 5-on-5. 6 goals against the number 2 defensive team in the league. Tanev is feisty. I like he. I see M3RP24 on Twitch saying, dude's a psycho. I love it. And you can see why Brandon Tanev is beloved in a lunch bucket market like this one, the small market, underdog market. You see a guy like that who just works his bag off every shift.
Yep.
Clearly flies. And you see that psycho edge where, him and Paul Connor are just going for it. And you could tell Brandon Tanev would want to throw down the gloves and scrap if he could have there. So I get why that element is exciting or to a lot of people. And it's something I'd be a lot more high on if they were able to upgrade a little bit higher in the lineup. So I get the appreciation for him. It just, the downside just comes from the fact that you weren't able to get that need upper in the lineup.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with Tanev as a player, with Tanev as a person. It's not a personal thing. It's just that we were hoping for a little more help up front than just that. If he was part of, like we talked about, a bigger kind of package coming back, there'd be no complaints whatsoever. We wouldn't be, or at least from personally, I wouldn't be complaining about it at all. It's just, you overpay to upgrade your fourth line isn't exactly the type of deadline that you're hoping to have for a first place team. But hey, this is the reality that we're in, right? These are the guys that we're gonna go in with. We've got 18 more games after today, and the goal is gonna be finish first. Let's get that President's Trophy. That'll be a huge accomplishment, massive if they can pull that off. That'd be a great moment for the team and the organization. And then let's see what happens in the playoffs. We still have a trump card in Connor Hellebuck, so anything's possible.
So I'm going to go this way with the convo because I think Tony makes a really interesting point on Twitch when it comes to the Stan versus Miller coming out thing. Sam B says, I thought Stan was decent. Couple of mistakes in the first period, but calmed down. And that would be my takeaway, too, from this game. I thought he had a real tough start, and I thought he did come and settle down. Like I kind of mentioned, I thought Miller and Stan, this might have been one of their best games together. But we do know Luke Schenn will be checking into this lineup. You're not going to go pay for Luke Schenn not to step right in.
100%.
And I found this interesting from Tony saying, I think Stanley will stick, but Sawyer going at Stanley for the second game in a row makes me think the Jets lifted the gag order on him. Thoughts on that being a potential indication that maybe his spot is rocky with Luke Schenn?
Can you refresh my memory? Which part did Sawyer come at Stanley on?
I want to say it was early in the first. It might have been in this first when he was really struggling with
when
some of the plays.
When he tossed the pass up the slot to Dylan,
That's
I think
exactly
it was.
the spot.
Yeah, maybe. I doubt it, to be honest. It honestly feels more like, hey, everybody's noticing that all you do is pump his tires. Maybe you can point out an actual obvious mistake like you're supposed to. Is more of the feel I got out of that. Yeah, I've resounded to the fact that Logan Stanley is this team's number 5 defenseman. He is their starting defenseman for the third pairing on the left-hand side when healthy. It is what it is. That's the kind of spot that we're at. The next part is to figure out who is going to be his partner. I think it's going to be Luke Schenn. I'm almost certain of it. I think they're going to run on the aspect of this is going to be his mentor. This is going to be the guy to teach him how to play that big style, that aggressive, mean style, right? He's got the size. He's got the natural gifts already. We just got to teach him how to use it. So I'm wondering if that's going to be the route that they take. So that's kind of my guess on that, is it's going to be a Stanley Schenn third pairing, but we'll see. What do you think Schenn fits?
My gut still goes with Morrissey, Schenn, DeMello, Stanley. I still think we see a shift there.
Yeah. Do you think we get
I
it
think
next
they
game, or are we going to need a couple practices? They start him slow on the third and work him up, or how do you think they'll approach it
Uh,
with Luke?
I think they'll. That's a good question. Veteran like that, clearly someone that's respected. Maybe they work it in. I just think that that's something we're gonna see pretty quick.
I'm really curious to see how that goes. If they give him that opportunity to play up with Morrissey, it feels like a better use for him in the lineup overall. To get him up there with Morrissey, you give DeMello down to Stanley to hopefully they can both work on their issues kind of together in low minutes and see what Luke Shen can do with a puck mover like Morrissey. And if it doesn't work, then you return DeMello up there, right? It doesn't. There's no harm, no foul in giving it a shot. I look at the team, I look at the roles that everybody has been casting up to this point, and I just wonder if it's going to be plug and play. Luke Shen just gets dropped into that third pairing because the other guys are kind of, written into their spots. I'm curious to see how Arniel approaches it now that it's not just a player getting healthy or a player from the minors, that it's a new guy being dropped into the team. And like you said, that's a veteran who's bringing in experience, right? Bringing in the playoff experience that they didn't have. So yeah, I'm curious to see how he's treated and where that's done.
Him losing minutes on the penalty kill is an interesting detail Tony throws out too. It's something to monitor. We'll see where that goes. I'm kind of with Al Camino when he says I'll believe it when I see it, but
yep.
Some reasons to maybe get optimistic though. Hey, maybe I'm foolish for continuing to try to do that sometimes. Mike Friesen says Shen with Morrissey size on each pair, and that's exactly
true.
where I think and why.
That's true. I didn't
think
consider
that's
that.
something they're looking for.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. I didn't consider that.
So we see Tanev come into the fourth line, though there was some talk like he was going to start his way there. So maybe they are looking at him up there. Where do you think, now that things are all set, what's the first look Scott Arniel goes with a healthy group?
I think with a healthy group, he's going to be playing on the fourth line still. I don't think he's going to unseat Mason Appleton right away, just because they really like that trio together. We've seen that that's kind of their go-to quite frequently, and I don't know if Tanev really does change that dynamic for them. I think Appleton has enough cachet with this coaching staff that he'll get to keep that spot for now. Now, if things change and Tanev goes on a crazy heater on the fourth line and Appleton doesn't, you can always switch it up. But my guess would be that the top nine stays exactly the same, and that Tanev slides into that fourth line for at least for the conceivable the first few games.
Yeah, I imagine at least early on, the top nine will stay intact with what we've seen for 63 games or most
Essentially,
of the
minus
63
injuries.
games.
Yeah.
Al Camino asks, is he better than Appleton? I personally don't think so.
It's a wash. One guy's faster, the other guy's maybe a little bit better with the puck.
With this idea that Sawyer gets insight from the team that educates his takes on the broadcast, let's say. The one scenario I get really nervous about is if that Vlad Nemestikov line slows down. We see Arniel go bones, and you see Tanev, Lowry, Appleton, Nino up to the second, and Cole Perfetti down to the fourth line as things get more stressful. It's my one concern after hearing Sawyer even float the idea of Tanev playing with Nick Ehlers earlier on the broadcast. That was just the one scenario I'm scared about a little bit.
Yeah, it's always possible, especially if the points start to dry up for Cole. I'm just glad that currently he's playing at a rate that they won't go to it unless he dries up. And right now he's on fire and he's doing all the small things right still. So I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, if things get bad at any point, you could always see that as a panic move. I hope not, because that would be just absolutely foolish in my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see. It's hard when you get an old reliable like this, right? That old glove.
Yeah, it's just the one thing I did think about a little bit and what that would kind of mean. So we'll see. I assume that it's going to be a lot of plug and play early where it's a top nine, stays the same.
Yep.
Tanev jumps onto that left wing plus the PK.
Yep.
But I do wonder about the Shen thing. We'll see where that goes. I imagine he'll probably be there for the next one. So what are the Jets getting in Brandon Tanev and Luke Shen? What needs were filled today?
We'll
dive into some of the quotes we saw too.
Absolutely. So they got the quote unquote toughness that they were looking for. I mentioned on our stream earlier and on some of the other shows, I feel like they wanted to get somebody that is going to take the pressure off of Adam Lowry to get into every fight. I don't want to see Adam Lowry break a hand on somebody's helmet or visor or jaw and be out for the playoffs, because that would really hurt their chances. So it's real nice to see that they were able to get somebody to kind of take that pressure off of Lowry. They got size that they can spread out now through the bottom, through the six defense, through the three pairings, which is good. Hadn't really considered. Yeah, you get a chance to have size on all three pairs this way. And they get some help on the PK, some extra bodies to go out there and help out with that. So they definitely. And shout out to Big Papa. I always forget this part. Stanley Cup champion, right? They're adding a guy who has won a cup before. So you know what? They added a lot of the intangibles. They added a lot of the small things that they needed to. They added some depth, right? You need NHL bodies because, like we mentioned, nobody gets to the playoffs 100% healthy. It just doesn't happen. So you need those NHL guys that that fit your system, that fit your values on the ice. They did miss out on something that we'll kind of get to the other holes, but yeah, those are, from what I saw out of those two guys, that's the big things that they're adding in.
Yeah, definitely the PK. Definitely going to grit it up and add some of that fuck you element back and push back on teams. Like you said, NHL bodies at the depth chart. I do think, and I did say this on the stream earlier, as disappointed as I was, I do see value in Luke Shen. I just really wished that they were going to go find a better partner for that third pair after getting him. I was hoping for a double dip there, because I've talked about on this show for the last 2 weeks, I do think this team needed a Stanley Cup champion to kind of calm the room down should things go bad in the playoffs. I do think that's important.
Yep.
So yeah, they addressed those kind of depth things that you're looking for around the fringes of an NHL team. It's hard to feel whole when they missed on the big piece to kind of push the core forward.
Yeah, it's the fact of missing out on the piece to help bring this group that extra step closer. The other part of it is, you turn your head to the left and you see Mikko Rantanen joining the Central Division. You turn your head to the right and you see Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle joining Colorado in the Central Division, and you go, oh, okay, this just got a whole lot harder without even having to add, right? So, yeah, their job's got a lot tougher come playoff time, essentially today, and we're gonna have to really see what this group has got at that time.
Dante Violet says, did you guys get drunk since trade deadline? This level of hope is unhealthy. Hey, at the end of the day, this is a post-game show. And the Winnipeg Jets played a really good hockey game. We're going to slowly creep into the comments we got from Chevy, the comments we got from Arneal. But I do want to highlight, because I do think it's been misconstrued a little bit in the disappointment, that there is still a lot of good things coming. Now, what it's going to mean in April, I have my doubts. I've made no secret about that. But I do think it's important to really highlight some of that, right? So Mike Friesen, though, reminds me about, the thing I was just saying with Tanev and Perfetti. Mike Friesen has to remind me. Remember when they called up Axel to save the season against the Avs? Definitely an all-timer.
Yep.
Fat Tony, 202, bringing up the hype on the second line. And this has been a stretch. This is one of their weeks where, if you want to believe in the Jets second line, how it's put together, I think these last two games are the example of what you want to see them look like. Now, the one problem I have is it's been so inconsistent for that group. And if that group disappears and we have a top line that, despite what you hear on the broadcast being the quote-unquote best in the league, this was another tough game for them despite Connor getting on the board, where they were the one line that was heavily in their own zone again. I just worry about that second line going cold at a tough time when you don't have a first line, despite the narrative that you could trust fully. But to highlight Fat Tony's point, that line does have a 53% shot attempt advantage and a 60% goals for advantage, 53 as well on the expected goals. So you expect the goals to maybe trend down a little bit compared to what they've done, but that is a solid underlying profile for a second line. It feels like a lot of that's been juiced over the last month, and maybe I'm just thinking too far backwards, but I do wonder about it moving forward.
I want to circle on something you said a few episodes ago, that when that group was dealing with some nagging injuries and things like that, we may have been a little too hard on them during those times. And kind of what we're seeing with a healthy version of them when all three is a little bit closer. Again, maybe not as extreme as what we're seeing right now with this being so high, but, a little bit closer to that end of it than what we saw when they were kind of carrying around some of those injuries. So, yeah, if you're going to believe in this trio going forward in the playoffs, this is what you want to see from them. You just got to hope that they can deliver this consistently into the playoffs because, one injury on that line and it falls apart. One guy starting to have a bad run of games and it falls apart. And the first, it's a frustrating conversation on the top line because, sure, by absolute volume, they're one of the best in the league in terms of how many goals they've scored. But they've also played together more than any other trio by a wide margin. It's not even close. And then when you adjust it by the amount of time in the game played, group. They're middle of the pack, and that's fine. Yep. But they're not this incredible force that is absolutely devouring the league. They've just had the opportunity to play together all year, and no one else has because that's not generally how it's done. But yeah, so they're fine, and when they're on, they're great to watch on the games where they can dictate their own pace in the offensive zone. They can be really fun to watch. It's just the fact that isn't going to be every single game.
I gotta say, it was another tease to see Nick Ehlers take a Kyle Connor shift after Kyle Connor played that PK. Yeah. Got a great look. I continue to love the idea of Kyle Connor on the PK, and with that can kind of create and open up for the Jets. Over the last bit, it seems like he's had a couple real good chances on that PK, and I think that's gonna one or two of those is gonna go in at some point. So I continue to really like that. But what a tease to see an offensive zone face-off right after that PK, where Nick Ehlers gets thrown out on that group, and they immediately control the ozone, and Nick Ehlers immediately scores. I continue to think that plan A is what's going to hold them up. That's where the deadline conversation does come a bit more for me, and we've talked about this on this show. I do think this is a quality hockey team. I also think that there's better ways for them to go about it to really foolproof it come playoffs, and that's where the mixture of not getting help and seeing how the coach is stuck in this method is where I get concerned. And that's where the frustration is. It's a built-up frustration of multiple aspects and what that potentially leads to.
Yeah. They've got the opportunity to kind of, move things around and see what fits. And they've got some combinations that would be really interesting and that we've seen in short amounts work. I want to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure this was maybe the third-ish goal that Nick Ehlers has scored when he's had an opportunity to take a shift with Scheifele and Velarde on that top line for whatever reason or another. Anytime he gets a chance to play with those guys, either he or Scheifele is scoring a fucking goal. Like it works. We had the run of games with Ehlers and Lowry, and not only did it work on the scoreboard, it worked in the analytics. When you talked to the two of them in the media afterwards, they told us how much they liked playing with each other. It's real frustrating that we are so set
two
into
of them
this.
Two of them did.
Yeah, Lowry and Ehlers.
Oh, that too. Oh, sorry. I was thinking Ehlers and Velarde.
Oh, yes, that as well. I forget. I was talking, but yeah, Lowry and Ehlers, when they got to play together, they talked about how much they were enjoying getting that chance to play together, and then it was working on the score sheet too. So yeah, it's frustrating that we're so penciled in or penned into these spots.
Let's hope the second line keeps cooking.
Gotta pray.
So I got this Shen thing wrong. That's my bad. Danica Smith updates me on YouTube. Shen isn't with us till the home game. And Julian says TSN said something about work visas this morning, which is why they don't like the trade deadline being on a Friday. So
he's Canadian.
Oh, then yeah.
He's from Saskatchewan.
I should have thought that through. Sorry. Prairie boy. That's right.
Prairie boy.
That's my bad.
That's a nice.
Too much mental gymnastics today. I'm a little off tonight.
Hey, I feel you.
Been a rough one. Car was a bit more expensive than it was supposed to. Got a tough call from the doctor. Deadline was a disappointment. The first day of being 30 just hasn't been too hot, but we move.
Well, you can be happy. Everything comes in threes, right? So now you're done. The bad things are finished. It's only good going forward.
Yeah. Let's put a bow on the trade deadline. After today's show, it's going to be all about this team, what we're seeing on the ice. This is the group now. But we've had some hours to stew on it. We've got some takeaways from the team. We've got some quotes from Scott Arniel and Kevin Shoveldayoff. Let's dive into them. So Scott Arniel first. was asked, did he allow himself to get excited about the possibility of acquiring Brock and Nelson? In which he said, yeah, you're sitting there and now you're sort of moving lines around, looking at different people. Yeah, that was a thing. I got to sit in on most of the meetings here. We were in on these conversations. And he mentioned something about it being unfortunate. So safe to say the coach was really excited about the idea of getting a big ad, and to drop the unfortunate word was kind of interesting to see publicly.
Yep.
Were you a little surprised about that? Like, to at least see Arniel kind of admit that?
Yeah, really, I would not expect a coach to ever comment on a player who didn't get added, and showing some disappointment, talking about how unfortunate it was that they didn't get to, and he let himself get a little excited. Scott Arniel, maybe he is just like one of us. He's just a fan watching the trade board, going, "Come on, Chevy, go get me, Brock." So yeah, I was pretty surprised. I'm not sure I've seen that too often in the past, but I like it. I love candid shit like that. I think it's important. I think to get those type of messages out there to. So I do. I like when we can get some information that we normally don't. So yeah.
Yeah, it feels like one of those tongue slip moments for a coach in his first year, but it is one of those times where you see like the team kind of feels the disappointment that we feel, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just like us overreacting. They were hoping for something as well.
Oh,
and it's clear that they were trying for something. On acquiring Luke Shen, now the team's only cup winner, which is something I've talked up, the idea of this team can kind of use. Arniel was saying how he was talking about winning the cup with him, and he was hoping he knows what it takes this time of year. He's had the experience of being in Tampa and winning too. If he has knowledge, we want to hear it. And it is the type of thing that I do think does bring it genuine, intangible value to this dressing room, especially with some of those playoff concerns. What did you take away from that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you and with Scott Arniel. A lot gets talked about in terms of chemistry and vibes and, what's happening in the room and all these things. I think one of the things that you can really actually point to that is a positive overall is having somebody who's been there, who's done this, who knows what it takes to win, who's seen a winning organization, getting to bring that level of like, it's all right, guys, like he can help bring the calm to a group that, might be a little bit jittery if they've never done this before, right? We're all humans. Anytime we all do something new that we're excited about, we all get that jittery kind of jumpy feeling. So to have somebody there who can help you through that a little bit is nothing but a positive. So yeah, real big fan of that.
Moving on to Chevy, who had some interesting comments as this day went on. Kevin Cheveldayoff on the unique and ever-shifting nature of this year's deadline. It was a really interesting deadline, much different than a lot of other ones. There was things that let's go to the phone line first, and we'll dive into Chevy's comments.
Hey, caller. Thanks for holding. You're on the landing strip. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Brandon. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. How about you?
All right. Better than the trade deadline was, but so pretty fun, pretty good game today, I would say. I only have one question.
Okay.
What happens if Shifley gets injured?
We hope
does Lowry go one and then fill in the rest? Like,
that would be the route I would take. Yep, that's the route I would go with it. I'm not sure if what Scott Arniel would do, if they'd maybe try to bring somebody up from the Moose to take a temporary spot if it's only a couple games. But if it's a long-term thing, yeah, I would be trying Lowry there.
We'll be cooked.
Yeah, that's kind of the answer.
Yeah. But I do like Canada, but we'll see how it goes, I guess. But anyway, okay, have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
You too. Thanks for the call, Brandon. And I do think those are the two big questions coming out of today, and why it is a bit frustrating for a playoff team is if Mark Scheifele goes down, what happens? Or if you lose simply one of Sandberg, Morrissey, what happens? And that's a tough place to be. Frosty asks, do they need to waive a spare D? They do not. As of today at midnight, or I guess today at midnight, it was the rosters expand. So as long as you're cap compliant, which the Jets took home $6 million plus, you can carry as much guys on the roster through the rest of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. Once the roster's locked today, after the deadline, as long as you're under the cap, it doesn't matter how many guys that you carry around.
Ascended Saiyan says, I absolutely hate that question. And Mike Friesen says, yeah, that question is banned. It is the $1 million question, as Julian puts it on YouTube from Brandon. So, Brandon, we appreciate the call and appreciate you being here. Let's go back to Kevin Cheveldayoff, and let's get into the bigger conversation around the deadline. We've had some time to think things through. We've had some time to go through the comments, and let's see where we are here. On the unique and ever-shifting nature of this year's deadline, Kevin Cheveldayoff said it was a really interesting deadline, much different than a lot of other ones. There was things that you thought were real, and then all of a sudden weren't real. There was lots of players that maybe were in play, then that got pulled. Usually you see the guys added in the days go on. This was a unique trade deadline in that respect. We were in on things we felt we could be in on, and anything was available to us, we took a good hard look at. How did you interpret that answer from Chevy?
This was a weird one for me. This was really strange of an answer. I'm not sure why he wanted to come out and tell us that, quote, there was things that you thought were real and then all of a sudden weren't real. There was lots of players that maybe were in play that then got pulled out. It kind of feels like he's telling us that teams pulled the rug out from under him, offering him guys that they weren't actually going to be offering up to kind of either drive up prices or waste time. It's a weird answer for me. It kind of feels like that. Yeah, Chevy maybe got played on the market today, and he's telling us.
I don't
know. How do you read it?
So I think this was an attempt at Chevy speak, but this one to me, I'm having a lot of trouble with coming from a GM, because it does sound to me as someone that, given he's the second most experienced general manager in this league, that quote just reads to me as someone that didn't have a full grasp of the market and was kind of getting led astray in a lot of different areas. And that's kind of frustrating, because that is the one job to really understand what's going on and to really focus on what's real and what's not. And it just feels like one that we know he likes to be patient and we know he likes to shop at his price. And it feels like a situation where he might have been sitting on his price with some opportunities, and then those opportunities disappeared. I wonder about Seattle in that.
Yep.
I wonder about obviously Brock Nelson, which I think a couple of his quotes touch on that. And yeah, I found that to be a really weird Chevy speak quote, where that to me read as a GM that got leveraged this week and didn't really have a full grasp of what was available to him. And that's a little frustrating.
Yeah, I wonder if there really was something cooking between Chevy and Seattle, but then just the fact that it was waiting too long, a little bit of, not wanting to move off of certain guys, that they pivoted to Gordon Bjorkstrand and took the haul there instead, It's curious. I'm sure some things will leak out in the coming days and weeks, and some stories from from the other side of the fan base, or other side of the media. I'm sure we won't hear too much coming out of the Winnipeg side, but it'll be interesting to see what leaks out of, Seattle, what leaks out of Long Island coming forward to kind of fill in the picture a bit.
Yeah, Raquel, I wonder about too.
Yeah.
Just some details. I think Dante nails this here, and this is kind of my theory as well. I wonder if things like that, like in on McCann, but then they traded Bjork and Gordon, all of a sudden that goes away.
Yeah.
Those are the type of situations I do wonder about really impacting things, and I just do wonder if Chevy got kind of led astray and didn't have a full grasp of the market,
or just the wanting to wait a little too long. I wonder if it was, they had a price that he was still kind of wanting to sit and wait and think about, because like we've talked about there, and not even that we've talked about that, Kevin Sawyer and Craig Button talked about on the broadcast, they don't want to move their prospects. They believe in their prospects and were really reluctant to let any of those guys go. And yeah, they pivot off to moving, Gordon Bjorkstrand instead, and now you're left kind of holding the bag.
So I'm going to read off these two quotes back to back, because I do think they tie into each other and they form a bigger picture convo that I see Al and Julian are kind of talking about on YouTube. Was playing in Winnipeg the issue that held up a Nelson deal? Chevy said, I'm not going into anything specific as far as what the different situations were, but again, we put a real strong foot forward. are high prices to blame for the Jets exiting the deadline with cap space despite the desire to add. In which Chevy said prices didn't factor into any of our decisions as far as acquiring or not acquiring players. Like that wasn't a factor. We weren't going in saying we weren't going to do this, we weren't going to do that, we weren't going to do this, we weren't going to do that. We were prepared and ready to do whatever it took if there was a fit. Unless there's not a fit, then you have to be judicious and try and do things to help your lineup. How is your read on those two quotes back to back?
So with the Nelson thing, I want to say I actually don't put not getting Brock Nelson as a failure on Chevy. I truly believe that the Islanders probably would have taken the package that they got regardless of what we would have offered. I think Richie is just a better prospect than what we were willing to give up in our system. So I don't know if we even really had a shot at that one once they went Richie in the first. I don't put a lot of negative blame on Chevy for losing out on Plan A on Brock Nelson. And now, again, whether it's, he didn't want to waive his trade clause to come to Winnipeg, or he doesn't want to play anywhere in Canada or whatever, I don't know. Those things I'm not sure about. But even if we did offer our kind of best crack at it, I have a feeling they still might have gone with the package that they got. My issue is more so that the pivot off of that didn't pan out, that there wasn't a bona fide plan B to still really add an impact player to the group after not getting, after finding out certain players weren't available to him, or getting, whatever that strange cryptic quote is going to be. So yeah, my issue for personally is not so much that we missed out on Brock Nelson. In fact, that shit just happens. It's that we didn't have a bona fide plan B lined up and ready to go to help out.
So if I'm being honest, and there's a couple different ways I want to go here, so I'll try and keep them in a well-issued order here. I think it's safe to say that for the Winnipeg Jets to have gotten Brock Nelson, it was going to cost a first, plus Braden Yeager was going to be a part of it. And I firmly believe, just based on everything we're seeing, that was the holdup. I don't believe the Winnipeg Jets were willing to. And I said on my show a couple of days ago, for a rental Brock Nelson, that's a pricey price that I wouldn't want to pay. It turns out the market was the market this year. And Colorado ends up doing it and gets to your opposition. So I kind of read Chevy's quote as PR, honestly. It looks as if you're a number one team and you're not willing to spend, I think that's going to read poorly in your market. And I think it all relates to this. Got a great tweet from, I don't know how to pronounce their username on Twitter, as the deadline ended, saying, "The takeaway today is future casting. The new cap has terrified Jets asset management to control costs and keep onboarding cheap contracts to simply ice a team that could potentially make the playoffs every year for the ancillary revenue, and the goal and all in is in past tense terms for this team." So what I honestly believe from a big picture standpoint we learned about the Winnipeg Jets this year is that don't expect them to ever go all in and make that kind of trade, because I do think as far as the business health, they might be looking at just being a middle road team and making sure that they got some cheap contracts that can play in Winnipeg and can kind of keep this on the road. And I thought that was an interesting takeaway. And that's what I believe in my heart of hearts, is that they just weren't willing to make the big swing. Now, we'll find out. Maybe things come out. I just think that there's a business case here that maybe we're missing in the short term. And that's frustrating to me, because at the end of the day, I think everyone wants to probably see the team take a real shot at it. And it just feels like today was the perfect culmination of an all-in situation that didn't come. And I come out of this, unfortunately, believing that from the business aspect, they're nervous about where things can go. And they're looking to keep their powder dry to kind of keep things competitive in Winnipeg as long as possible. And it's a tough pill when, on one hand, obviously you want to watch a quality hockey team and we're getting that. On the other, it just feels like we're always going to be that one swing away from doing something special. And it's a tough pill as a fan, I think.
Yep, that's I think you nail it. I think we kind of have to settle into the fact that, and again, Craig Button and Kevin Sawyer told us on the broadcast today, they don't want to push all in now for risking the future. They said it on the broadcast. They're not going to trade, Braden Yeager away because they need him in 3 to 4 years, which will be hilarious when he's not allowed to play or has to play on the fourth line or we'll get to that then. But it's they're okay trading a first round pick if they need to. You know, that we've seen that
100%.
consistently right across. But I think we just all kind of need to accept the fact that they won't be trading off their top end prospects. Again, unless it's a Rutger McGrody situation where a guy's disgruntled and you need to do a hockey trade of some kind. But yeah, this is I think this is their MO. They're gonna give you a first round pick trade every once in a while if they are in a position to. But I don't think we should be expecting big massive swings at the deadline. Again, unless it's in years past where a trade is being forced on them because a guy is disgruntled and wants to leave.
Yeah. That's just my big picture takeaway today. And hey, we could do with that as we please. I see Elias McCracken says, embrace the team as they are. Look great in a playoff style game tonight, though I'm not sure I'd call that a playoff style game. Deadline is over. Hey, we're still on deadline day. This is our last day talking about the deadline. We're breaking down our bigger thoughts. If you can't handle a little bit of what we think is truth bombs, hey, we're going to embrace this team moving forward. We're still living in this moment, and we're talking about our takeaways.
We gave them the flowers.
I'm sorry that it's a... Yeah, we spent like 35 minutes kind of hyping up some possibles.
They looked great.
At some point, we got to take the blinders off and not just wave around pom-poms and be like, this is it. It's going to happen. It's going to, like, come on. There's honest conversations to have about what just happened, and we're having them. Like, come on.
Like, why do you keep giving me your toughest battle? Signs Neil Pionk. Yeah, you nailed it, Mike. That's... although, you know what, I will take a win today that there was no Neil Pionk extension announced. That's
so
I was worried about that. I thought that was going to be the big one we were going to get. So there's still hope. There's still time.
Excited.
There's still time. You might test free agency. Come on, Neil.
That Mike comment is good. And I found it interesting. Mike McIntyre had put out a tweet after the deadline passed, wondering if we see some UFAs for some good PR coming out of it. I do wonder about Sandberg and Pionk still. We'll see where that goes.
Could definitely see that.
But I got to admit, the sooner they do it, the better, so I can just get over it. Because if this creeps up after I'm finally getting over the deadline, it's going to be the final dagger in my belief in this group over the Hellebuck window.
Maybe they'll give us a present and we'll get a short-term Ehlers extension.
For sure. We'll see what happens. I doubt it, but we'll see what happens. In Ehlers We Trust says, none of this matters. Stay in the present moment. Oh, I think this is the present moment. The question is, can this team as constructed win in the playoffs? If coming first and staying ahead of Dallas matters a lot.
Yes.
A lot. And the fact that we have to qualify it with that should probably tell you what this deadline meant and why people are making that qualification, because everyone wants to avoid Dallas and Colorado. And if you're the number one team in the NHL, why are you trying to avoid two teams in the playoffs? It's clear that virtually everywhere, everyone thinks that Dallas and Colorado took a step above them, and I agree with that. So I believe the Jets could win in the playoffs if they come first. If Dallas catches them, I'm expecting another 5, maybe 6 games. I'm sorry. That's just the reality of what today meant to me. Is that, hey, you come in first. Let's keep the eyes on the prize. Go try and race for that President's Trophy.
Hell yeah.
Which continues to be, despite the thoughts on where that leads, continues to be a huge moment for the Winnipeg Jets. If they could wrap up a President's Trophy,
Yep.
It would also mean that they're getting the wild card 2 team. So I believe they can get over the first round hump if they're in first place. If they come second, I'm not betting on the Jets. I'm sorry.
Yeah, totally agree. At the moment, they're the third best team in the Central when you look after today. So they're on top of the charts right now, right? They're leading the table. They've got the points, which is awesome. We talked about that earlier on in the season, right? Bank those points. Get those in now because you don't know what comes later on. And this is kind of where we're at now, right? We banked those points. So because we're at a point now where those guys are going to start chasing after us real hard, we have to stay ahead of them. We have to finish first if we want a longer playoff run. It's just the way that it is because, Colorado, like I said, they walked us last year and they're a better team than they were last year. And we're about the same team as we were last year, right? So I'm not looking forward to that matchup anymore like I was a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, it's always possible, right? Maybe Dallas and Colorado beat the shit out of each other in the first round and they show up bruised, battered, and, on one leg, and we can go out there and win that round too. But man, it's going to be, we're going to need some help, right? We needed the help either as a trade, and now we're going to need help from opposing teams.
Yeah, this team can still go on a run. Like, you can't say it's a 0% chance, and I'm not going to say that it's a 0% chance. If things break down the right way, and you kind of highlighted it, this team needs to come first. Absolutely needs to. And they have 2 games against Dallas, which are going to be huge in dictating that. And they need Dallas and Colorado to go 7 games beating the piss out of each other for me to get excited. We'll see where that goes. Connor Hellebuyck could go God mode, and that is an X factor. This team's not written off. It's not over. I don't have faith that they're the top contender in the West or even in the top 3 at this stage. So that's just where I stand on what happened today.
You know what? I will shout out in Ehlers We Trust. We're not exactly the same team as last year. That's true. I keep saying we're the same team. It's not exactly. We've got a better power play this year.
Yeah.
A little, things like that. Connor Hellebuyck is back to being, absolute God mode. So, there are things that are a little bit different. I look at Colorado's improvements and our improvements, and I still go there. I still have them ahead of us in a 7-game series if everybody's healthy on both sides.
Over on Twitch, everyone wants me to go full Joker mode, and we'll see where this the rest of the year goes. But Fat Tony does ask an interesting question: is the Avs better than last year? Now they made their team this year better. Are they better than last year's version? They've lost Rantanen. Who knows what's going on with Val Nichushkin any single month? And I mean, I wish they would have drug tested him before the first round series because he just dominated. I do think there is a case to be made that the Colorado Avalanche have taken a step back from last year's version.
Fair.
But I also look at a team with Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, and how the Winnipeg Jets have handled that kind of group, and it would still concern me. I look at Dallas as the cream of the crop. I look at Vegas as a team I wouldn't want to run into as Winnipeg. And then I'd have maybe Colorado, Winnipeg from there. I guess Edmonton you'd have to consider. Really liked what they did. That is the deal I feel is the one miss. Just based on what happened this week, and you can't force a trade of a player that didn't move. I understand that too. The first round pick for Jake Wallman, in my opinion, is the big miss.
Yeah.
And Edmonton got that one.
Yep. Yeah, Edmonton gets a great player there. That's a tough one to swallow.
In Ehlers We Trust also asked a few other questions, and I think what's his name? Elias had made a good point here, a fair counter to some of what I had to say as far as the pushback in this game. In Ehlers We Trust asked about, is this team better than is this the best Jets team in the 2.0 era? What would you say?
It could have been, but I still think I'm going to put the 17-18 Western Conference Final run team above them.
Yeah, I don't have them close. I think the 17-18 team might be the best Winnipeg Jets 2.0 team we ever get to watch. If you just go back and look at not only the roster and like every hole that they had fixed, like the current top 4 doesn't even compare to that top 4 at that time.
Yeah.
The center depth doesn't compare. I think that team was truly special. I think that team was the best team in the NHL after game 21 on, and it was funny because that year we needed an injury to force lineup decisions to deepen out the team.
Yep.
And we still have those conversations 8 years later.
Yep.
But I think that 17-18 team was just something that's going to be really hard for the Winnipeg Jets to touch again.
The Washington Capitals fans should be really thanking their lucky stars we didn't get to the final in that one.
Agreed, man. Still bothers me. That was the team. That was the year.
Yeah.
Elias did push back, saying that when the Devils made a push in the third, the Jets did a really good job of containing it. And I think that's a fair point as well. If you're looking to break things down within a game, I think that's really important. That this team is showing those kind of things. And you want to see that come playoff time.
Yeah.
Will it be enough? We'll find out.
We'll find out.
He also says Connor and Scheifele playing defense is new. Pionk and Sandberg playing great as a tandem, and Helly seems more focused and loose this year. I mean, Connor Hellebuyck has been the best goalie in the NHL for like every year for 3 or 4 years now. I have a real hard time with the idea that he's simply getting better, and that's why the Jets are. Like, I mean, he's been this guy. Connor and Scheif have been more committed to D, and they're still not good enough on the first line defensively. I mean,
yeah, they're better than they have been, but it's still, again, it's that top line's middle of the pack, and if you've got a middle of the league top line, it doesn't leave you a lot of hope that in the playoffs they're all of a sudden going to dominate.
Let's watch how many pucks Neil Pionk coughs up when the forechecks get tougher in the playoffs, and then we'll make a determination on how excited we should be that he's still in the top 4.
This will be interesting.
Anyways, There was another question here I wanted to get to. In Ehlers we trust. So what grade did Chevy get today? Sorry, I missed the beginning of the show. How would you rank Kevin Cheveldayoff's trade deadline?
Ooh. What are we doing? Like letter grades?
Yes, absolutely.
I'll give him a C.
Oh, you're way too generous. That's a passing grade, man. Whew.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Is that
Holy nice
I'll give him
guy.
a C. I'll give him a C. Yeah, I'll give him a C. I'll give him a C.
C's get degrees. This was an easy D minus, just getting just past F because they slightly upgraded the defensive decor, or they got some aspects that they could use. This was an abject failure for the Winnipeg Jets in the position they were in, and I'll give it a D minus, just not to put the F on it.
All right, I'll
if
go.
I'm being completely honest.
I'll go.
No, you can't change it. Don't change
all right.
it. Don't fall under the
I
pressure.
was gonna go C minus with Frosty. I'm like, I'll give it a minus, maybe, but you know.
Hey,
I don't think
you
it's
want to be the generous one, but
I don't think it's a total fail. I don't think it's an absolute just abject failure in terms of what they brought in. They filled out some bodies. They brought in some extra help on the PK. They did the little things. They brought in a guy who's won some cups. I think those are things that were on the list technically, right? Those were things that they were looking for. They missed out on the things that would have gotten them a actually good grade, something you would have been proud of, a B, an A, or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, I think he gets a C. He did something. There was no stick poking meme today. He technically did a thing, and those things were technically on their list. So, it's hard to give him an incomplete on that. I'm a fair marker.
I think you're being way too generous. They didn't get either of the two big goals. They really need to insulate themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
They added depth. You could almost make the case with, the Tanaved was basically poking someone to do something, and they traded a second rounder to do something. So I think a C is way too generous. Elias, me and you, man, we're going to have it out at some point. I appreciate you coming at me, though. But
love it.
Middle of the league, top line, you're smoking something. I cannot wait to get off this show so I can smoke something and really calm down from the day that it was. It's been a busy one over here. But I'm sorry, they are a mid-pack line. As far as what they produce in their minutes, they're 16th or 17th in the league
16th.
comparing to other top lines.
Yep.
You are falling for the narrative you're hearing Kevin Sawyer and TSN people say because they go on Hockey DB and they look at the goals numbers and they break down nothing about what that line actually fucking does from a game-to-game aspect. The Winnipeg Jets top line is still very flawed. It's one of their biggest problems. They do not produce enough at a level to be anything higher than a mid-line. They're better than last year, but I'm sorry, if you start looking at it, a lot of this production is coming from the minutes. I'm sorry. This is a reality to what's going on here.
Yeah, when you even out the minutes for all the top lines across the league, they fall right in the middle of the pack. They produce as a mid top line. That's just kind of how it is. The reason that the totals are so lofty is they've played together more than any other top line, maybe in NHL history. By the time we get to the end of the season, it's on that kind of pace. So it's just pure volume at the moment.
It's amazing that we've learned nothing from the previous 2 years, and we're falling into a lot of the same traps. It's incredible. It's incredible. We'll see where it leads. Well, hopefully this year's different. We'll see where it leads.
Hey, somebody's got to win.
Elias McCracken says, praise Chevy when he re-signs Scheif and Helly, but fails when he has to climb the mountain FA and trade deadline. Wow. Aside from Nelson, a few others weren't coming here. How did we miss out? Hey, Elias really wants this convo today, so let's have this convo. I actually didn't praise, I'm going to throw this out there, I didn't praise the Scheifele contract. I was kind of worried about it because at the end of the day, he had to do it. He had to do it. I have no problem with him doing it. At the end of the day, Mark Scheifele is like the 20th best first line center. So when you get to the playoffs, you're in trouble in that spot as it is. That Connor Hellebuck deal, stroke of genius, getting them done together, I get it. Keeps this team on the ropes. And steers this team. I've talked a lot on this show. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff, since Paul Maurice walked out the door, had the heater of his life. He turned a team that was going the wrong direction, made a lot of smart, low-key trades, kept the two core pieces, and here we are, getting to talk about this team as a first-place team at the deadline. Fantastic stretch from Kevin Cheveldayoff. But I'm sorry, to evaluate a GM by, he did this, so every move is good, is so blindly loyal to a point that is ridiculous. Like, it makes no sense. Okay, this was good, so every move is good. Like, okay, what's a truly bad move that just hasn't worked? Was the Kevin Hayes move good because Kevin Cheveldayoff was the one that had his name on the move? Like, that's just a ridiculous way to think about it. GM he's done this much good work, so you cannot criticize when he has a really bad day. At the end of the day, what is frustrating is Kevin Cheveldayoff's work, which has been good, has put this team in first place, and then he couldn't pull the trigger to put it over. That's what's frustrating, and it's okay to talk about that. It's okay to point that out. It doesn't mean I think Kevin Cheveldayoff's a bad general manager. He had a bad week and an opportunity to take this team to another level and maybe have the conversations that we're having around the 17 and 18 team. I just think that's such a narrow viewpoint to take when we're trying to evaluate what's going on here.
Yeah, nobody's infallible, right? We all make bad calls. We all make bad decisions. And that includes our GMs and our coaches and stuff. Just because they're in the role doesn't mean that they're not going to also kind of miss on things sometimes. Shit happens. We like to call out the good when we do see it, both on the ice and what it can mean off the ice. And yeah, when there's opportunities to kind of push it over, and it's not just us, right? There's national media right across talking about how the Jets could have done this, the Jets could have done that, what the Jets have been looking at all week. And then you look at today, right? TSN's a perfect example. The panel was going through their picks at the beginning of the trade deadline. Everybody had the Jets either first, second, or third right across the panel. After the deadline goes by, they all drop them. There's only 2 left on the panel that still had them anywhere in the top 5. So it's right. It's not just us saying that other teams got better around them and, maybe more was needed because they are so good. They've done so well that you would have expected a little extra help coming in for them. And yeah, Chevy's not going to make the right call every time. And when he does, though, we're going to call it out and give him the flowers for it. But yeah, that's just, you can't expect it every single time.
Yeah. Elias says Nick's in a fighting mood. I get it. And I'm totally fine with you coming and having these convos. I want this show for people to feel open and to get a reaction out of me and go back and forth. So I don't want to turn you off of this. I don't believe that everyone should agree. I think it's better. I think sports media is better. I think politics is better. I think life is better when you could come together and have these conversations, debate them, and try and find better answers. I think this is a good thing. So I don't want to, I know I'm coming off like an ass right now, but I do got to finish it off with this. He says, step into Chevy's shoes for a day. I mean, this is a GM that's had a cozy NHL job for 14 years, despite winning first rounds on 2 occasions in that stretch, who's got a job for life, who will never not be employed in Winnipeg. And there is real no pressure to take another step as long as we keep being in playoffs. That is the bar. I mean, that's a pretty cozy shoe to step into. I'd be totally fine stepping into a situation like that for work. So I'm just going to throw that out there as far as there's a real segment in this city and in this market. There was a lot of people, because obviously when you talk about the Maple Leafs, it's out there all the time, that there was such a highly debated Kyle Dubas conversation. And there was people that would die by Kyle Dubas, and there was people that couldn't stand him. There's people in this market that that treat the Kevin Cheveldayoff stuff far more rosy than even Dubas got it. Like, we pretend like this guy walks on water. For what?
The funny thing is, I'm generally the one who's like, man, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to add, I was the one saying, yeah, they're not going to add a big name at the thing. You've been the Chevy guy going, look, he's added when they've had the opportunity. They brought in PLD. They brought in, they've spent first round picks when they've had the opportunity. You were the one trying to hype up saying, no, Chevy, when he has the chance, is willing to, go out and do something for this team. So it's funny to have, you're now labeled the guy who's mad at Chevy when you've been his biggest defender up to this point. It's, we're here for the good and the bad, guys. We're not a negative show. We're not a positive show. We want to talk hockey, and we're going to get a lot of both sometimes.
At the end, I'm going to call it how it is. And I was expecting something, and it's really disappointing that he's done such a good job of getting this team here. And then right when it comes to that moment of truth, he didn't have the gonads to put his balls on the table and make the swing. And we've never seen him do that. So it's the one question left remaining around him. And I think it's a fair question to be asking.
Yep. And we've seen it at varying levels, right? Of him wanting to stay too long on a guy that he doesn't want to move off of for whatever reason. and then it forces the Jets to either accept a lesser deal in terms of value out on the market or losing them for nothing. So it's again, we all have our blind spots, right? We all have those things that are just hard to work around and work through, and that happens to be, you know, one of his is he gets attached to his guys. And you know that you may like that. You may say, "Hey, I'm here for the loyalty over the results," and that's your kind of fan, and that's cool. You know, I'm not here to tell anybody how to be a fan. We're here to just kind of argue about it, though. So that's kind of yeah.
Max says, "Hi, Nick. Please watch the blood pressure." Could use a little bit of the blood pressure lately. Mike Friesen gives me another counterpoint here. I think Chevy does a good job, but the 2C issue has been an issue for how long? Like, I think Chevy's a good GM. I'm not taking that away. I think he's coming off the 3 years of his career, the best 3 years of his career. But at the end of the day, I just see so much people that want to race to defend every little thing that we're sitting in Winnipeg in a President's Trophy spot, criticizing Tampa Bay for spending too much, criticizing Florida for spending too much, criticizing Colorado for spending too much. Guess what those management teams have done? They've won cups. Kevin Cheveldayoff's barely gotten out of the first round. Why are we the ones judging how they're operating? How are we making the determination that, oh, no, they're wrong about it and Chevy's right when they got cups?
Yeah. That's generally the mark of what success is, right? That's the thing we all generally kind of look to. So we should be wanting to emulate that type of style if we're looking to be successful. And yeah, no, we're gonna keep doing it our way. And you know, hey, maybe it'll hit. Maybe it'll hit. I don't know, but
I genuinely hope anybody watching the show gets to come back in May, June, and clip this show and make me look like an idiot. I truly hope that's where this leads. At the end of the day, that's what my heart wants. My brain's telling me not to fall for this again. Yeah. And that's just the dilemma right now. And we'll bring it down from there. This was a fun one. And Elias McCracken does say, "Hey, you guys don't have to defend your tone tonight. This is great banter and love a great debate, but you're wrong." And hey,
we appreciate it.
I'm hoping I am. I genuinely am hoping I am. But hey, let's get into the three stars today, and we'll move forward. Moving forward, this deadline's passed. Though before we go, Fat Tony does say, and we are fans. We're fucking stupid thinking winning in business is the goal. And I think that is the highlight of this. There's people with skin in the game. There's a business to run. And my biggest takeaway is that the business model isn't to try and win a Stanley Cup. It's to be a first-round team as long as possible and hope you go on a run like 17-18 and hope it magically comes together. Yeah. And that's frustrating to me. But there is other factors at play. And I do understand the business side. But coming from a fan lens that wants to see the best for the Winnipeg Jets, I just can't see today leading to that result. Hope to be wrong.
Yeah.
Hope to be wrong.
I've got a probably pretty unpopular take kind of about it too, when you because this is a group where the management group and the ownership group are probably looking at it going, I don't know, we're not filling out the building right now with a President's Trophy team. Are we really going to be wanting to push all in on something that they're not sure about? I wonder if that played into it at all. I don't know if it did. I'm not saying it did. I wonder if that starts to creep in.
And they're totally might be an internal cap play to leave $6 million plus on the table because of attendance. We don't know that detail. I don't expect the team to tell us that detail. No. That would be bad PR.
Yes,
100%. That type of stuff can be in play. But I'll make the counter argument to you here because I think this is a chicken and the egg situation when we're talking about the business and what's best for the business and whether the President's Trophy and not selling out the business. We do very much are in a situation where the ownership's trying to win fans back because of past experiences, because of this, that. I read a tweet today that another guy's leaving for the second time because no one followed up with him. There's a chicken or the egg argument here where a lot of this need for business is coming from corporate support. What avenue of people trying to sell to their companies do you think is more important to corporate? Going for that big swing and be like, hey, this is exciting. Or, hey, Brandon Tanem's back. Maybe we won't bring in a season package for our business. Like, that's where this gets dangerous because I think when you look at corporate support and what they'd be looking for, this matters.
Wait, so you're telling me the potential of Braden Yeager 4 years from now isn't selling boxes?
4 years ago, I mean, he might get stuck on the fourth line for a couple of games, end up with the Moose for 2 more years, and it might be 6 years the way this team handles some other prospect.
All right, let's do the 3 stars.
DV204 asks, do you know how much revenue you get from winning a cup? Minimum 8 playoff games and more likely 15. That's what I mean. Filling up the barn when you're not paying players a paycheck because their paychecks stop at the playoffs is the gravy of this business as far as cashing in checks. That's where the money comes. The players get paid for the playoffs based on the TV contract, and each round they get a bonus based on that TV revenue.
Yep.
I think that's a dangerous game to be playing with corporate support where it is.
Totally agree.
But let's go to the 3 stars. This was a fun one. Elias, thanks for getting me going, truly. I enjoy shows like this. I enjoy this. I appreciate the chat being here. I appreciate everyone being a part of this show. I appreciate everyone that tuned in for the live stream. That was a ton of fun. Got a really good crowd today. It was great to kind of experience those feels in the moment with such a big group. Let's go to the 3 stars, and let's move forward and see where this goes.
Woo. All right. Okay, so 3rd star for tonight. I'm sticking with my my guy. I'm gonna give it out to Cole Perfetti. I liked what that second line was able to do tonight. I like that he got on the scoreboard at the end of the game there to keep to keep things moving. I really want to see Cole Perfetti succeed. I'm glad that he's still here after the deadline. I think he's going to be a big part going forward. So I'm going to give 3rd star to Cole Perfetti. 2nd star, Nik Ehlers, who's all over the goddamn ice tonight. Like I pointed out earlier with the tweet from Garrett Hull, that Nik Ehlers is the best player with limited ice time maybe in the history of the league. It's fucking ridiculous what he can do with such a limited amount of ice. And tonight was a perfect Nik Ehlers type of game. So I'm going to give 2nd star to Nik Ehlers. And number 1 star is fucking super easy for me. It's our chat and all of our listeners and our watchers today who hung out with us for 3.5 hours while we cried and tried to make sense of not getting our guys. So thank you to all of you. You guys are the goddamn best.
You're so good at becoming the fan favorite. Hey, Nick goes heel Joker mode, and Mikey's giving the fans the 1st star. You're really trying to create this divide. Hey, I'm the heel now. We're reversing roles.
Look, the dark can't exist without the light.
I love it.
Since I was right about them not adding a big name, I've got to gloat and be the good guy now.
So you know what? I'll follow you with everyone that tuned into this show. 3rd star. We just really appreciate it. I'm having fun despite the fired up and getting wound up. I'm having a real blast doing this and growing this community and being here nightly, talking about this team that we all love so much. And you guys make this show possible the way it is, with your own passion in the chat, with your own thoughts, with your own opinions that we get to bounce off each other. So you know what, Mikey, I'm going to cave and fall into that one. Number 2 today, I'm going to go off the board. See, we reward guys like Stan and Apples when they have good nights.
Yep.
Because, we give them so much shit. You were talking about how Colin Miller's experience in Winnipeg has been, and I really the goal that Iafallo goes, just the patience to find the shooting lane to come in. I thought this was one of him and Stanley's best game. Might have been their best game as a pair.
Yep.
I'm going to go Colin Miller against the former team
Good
New
call.
Jersey today. And then for me, I don't think there's any doubt who was the best player on the ice for the Winnipeg Jets in this one. Been one of my favorite players to watch since he showed up to Winnipeg. Nik Ehlers was in total control mode of this one. He had the fancy moves out. He had the wheels going. He had the shooting towards the net, creating a few goals. 3-point night. Nik Ehlers, number 1 star. And shout out Mike Friesen with the 3rd star as offensive. Hey. If Elias didn't get me worked up so much, maybe it would have been 1. I tease. We'll be back on, what is it, Sunday from here?
Sunday, yep. We got a 4:00 game on Sunday.
Ooh, an afternoon game. We'll be back Sunday afternoon. Make sure you like the content coming your way. like, subscribe, send it to some friends and family you know that are interested in Jets content, and let's keep building up this community. I love being a part of this with you guys.
Right on. Good night, everybody.
Oh, Elias is calling in. Come on, Elias, call in soon. Let's go.
Gotta get that call.
Good night,
Right on.
everyone.
Good night, guys.